I haven't left my apartment in 3 years. My therapist, Dr. Caldwell, says it's part of my condition, something called agoraphobia. To me, it just feels like fear, pure unrelenting fear. The world outside these four walls is too big, too loud, too unpredictable. In here, I can control everything. I know where things are, how they feel, how they smell. Nothing changes unless I want it to. And that's how I survive, but Dr. Caldwell doesn't get it. She keeps saying that I need to push myself out of my comfort zone, that I need to experience the outside world. She says it like it's some kind of cure-all, like the very air outside my apartment will magically fix me. But I know better. I've watched enough people suffer out there, seen enough disasters on TV to know that it's a jungle, a chaotic, dangerous mess where anything can happen. Out there, you have no control. That's why I'm safe here. Inside, my life is predictable. I wake up, eat breakfast, check my emails, not that I get many, and spend the day reading or watching videos online. Sometimes I order things from the internet, books, gadgets, food, and have them delivered to my door. I don't need to talk to anyone. Everything I need is here, in my little box of safety. It was through one of these online shopping sprees that I first saw it, the mask. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just browsing through the usual collection of oddities and antiques that I like to look at, but never actually buy. But when I came across the mask, something stopped me from scrolling past. It was an old Japanese no mask, the kind used in traditional theater performances. The face was smooth and pale, with delicate features carved into the wood, slightly parted lips, downcast eyes, and a faint, serene expression that made it look almost alive. I don't know why it caught my attention. I wasn't particularly interested in theater or Japanese culture, but there was something about the mask that made me feel calm. It was like it was staring at me through the screen, silently reassuring me that everything would be okay. The listing didn't have much information about it. Just a brief description: antique no mask, 18th century. Condition excellent. Price $200. It seemed too expensive for something I didn't even know if I wanted, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed it. So after a few days of thinking about it, I gave in and ordered it. When the mask finally arrived, I felt a strange sense of excitement, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I opened the package carefully, my hands trembling slightly as I pulled the mask out of its wrapping. It was even more beautiful in person. The wood was cool and smooth to the touch, the paint still vibrant despite its age. And when I looked into the eyes, I felt that same sense of calm wash over me, like the mask was watching me, but not in a threatening way. More like a companion, someone who understood me. I put the mask on the small shelf above my desk, where I could see it from almost anywhere in my apartment. It became a sort of comfort object for me, something I could glance at whenever I felt anxious or overwhelmed. In a way, it became my anchor, reminding me that I was safe, that nothing could hurt me as long as I stayed inside. But then the whispers started. It was late one night, a few weeks after I'd gotten the mask. I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, the hum of my computer screen the only light in the room. I had just turned over to face the wall when I heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. At first I thought it was just my imagination, maybe the wind outside or the faint buzz of the electronics in my apartment. But as I lay there listening, the whisper grew louder. "Dennis!" My heart skipped a beat. I sat up in bed, my eyes darting around the room. The apartment was dark, the only light coming from the glow of my computer. Everything was still, silent. "Dennis?" The voice came again, soft but clear. This time I knew it wasn't the wind. Someone was whispering my name. I got out of bed, my bare feet hitting the cold floor as I crept toward the sound. It was coming from the shelf above my desk. The mask, I stared at it, my breath caught in my throat. The mask hadn't moved. It was still sitting there, exactly where I had placed it. But the whispering, it was coming from the mask. "Dennis, come closer." I don't know why I did it, but I stepped forward, my body moving on autopilot. My heart was racing, my palms sweaty as I approached the mask. It was still just a mask, just a piece of wood, shaped into a human face. But the closer I got, the louder the whispers became. "You're safe here, Dennis." The voice was soft, almost soothing. It felt like a lullaby, a gentle song meant to calm me down. I found myself reaching out, my fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the mask. The moment I touched it, a strange warmth spread through my body. and the anxiety that had been bubbling up inside me melted away. "You don't need to be afraid anymore," the voice whispered. I pulled my hand back, startled. The warmth disappeared, leaving me feeling cold and unsettled. I stepped away from the mask, my mind racing. This wasn't normal. This wasn't right. But even as I backed away, part of me didn't want to believe what was happening. Part of me wanted to listen to the voice, to let it lull me into that sense of calm I had felt before. I went back to bed that night, but I didn't sleep. The mask sat on the shelf, watching me, whispering softly in the dark. The whispers didn't stop after that. They became more frequent, more insistent. Every night, I would hear my name being called, the voice growing louder and more familiar. It didn't scare me anymore. In fact, I started to find comfort in it. The voice wasn't threatening. It was kind, soothing, like a friend who was always there when I needed them. During the day, I would sit at my desk, working on my computer, while the mask whispered to me from the shelf. It became a constant companion, filling the silence of my apartment with its soft, melodic voice. It told me things I wanted to hear, that I was safe, that I didn't need to worry about the outside world, that I could stay here forever and never have to face my fears. I started talking back to it. At first, it was just small, whispered conversations, asking the mask questions, telling it about my day. The mask never responded directly, but the whispers would grow louder, more encouraging, as if it was listening, as if it understood. "Why are you here?" I asked one night, lying in bed with the mask on the shelf beside me. "To protect you," the voice whispered back. "To keep you safe." Safe from what? From everything. The answer was vague, but it didn't matter. The voice was right. I was safe here, inside my apartment, away from the dangers of the outside world. The mask was protecting me. I didn't need to leave. I didn't need to talk to anyone else. All I needed was the mask. As the days went by, I found myself growing more and more attached to it. I stopped calling Dr. Caldwell. I didn't see the point anymore. She didn't understand me the way the mask did. She kept telling me to go outside, to face my fears. But why would I do that when I was perfectly happy here? I stopped checking my emails, stopped answering the phone. The only voice I wanted to hear was the mask's. But as the weeks turned into months, something changed. The whispers, once soft and soothing, became darker, more insistent. They started telling me things I didn't want to hear, things about myself, about my past, about the world outside. "Why did you leave them behind?" the voice asked one night. I froze, the question sending a chill down my spine. "Leave who behind?" I whispered back. "Your family, your friends. You abandoned them." I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. "No, they left me. They didn't leave you, Dennis. You left them. You shut yourself away. You ran from them, and now you're alone." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't thought about my family in years. My parents, my sister, they had tried to reach out to me, tried to help me when my anxiety first started taking over, but I had pushed them away, cut them out of my life. It was easier that way, easier than facing them, than explaining why I couldn't leave the house, why I couldn't be the person they wanted me to be. "They don't care about you," the voice whispered. "They never did. That's why you're here. That's why you're alone." I felt a knot form in my throat, tears welling up in my eyes. The mask had never said anything like this before. It had always been kind, always comforting, but now it was turning on me, dredging up the things I had tried so hard to forget. "Stop," I whispered, my voice trembling. But the mask didn't stop. The whispers kept coming, relentless, cruel. "You're worthless, Dennis. You've always been worthless. That's why they left you. That's why you're alone." I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the mask from the shelf and threw it across the room, watching as it hit the wall and fell to the floor with a dull thud. For the first time in months, the apartment was silent. I sat there, staring at the mask lying on the floor, my heart racing, my mind spinning. What had I done? Why had I listened to it for so long? The mask wasn't my friend. It wasn't protecting me. It was trapping me, keeping me locked in this prison of my own making. I got up, my legs shaking as I walked over to the mask. I didn't want to touch it, didn't want to hear its voice again, but I had to get rid of it. I couldn't let it control me anymore. I picked it up, my hands trembling as I held it in front of me. The mask was still, its serene expression unchanged, but I could feel the weight of its presence pressing down on me. "You're not real," I whispered, my voice barely audible. You're just a piece of wood. You don't control me." But as I said the words, the whispers returned, faint at first, but growing louder with each passing second. "You can't get rid of me, Dennis. I'm a part of you now. You need me." I shook my head, trying to block out the voice. "No, I don't need you." "Yes, you do. Without me, you'll be alone. You'll have nothing." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into the mask's surface. "I'm already alone." The voice paused for a moment, as if considering my words, and then it laughed. A cold, cruel laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "You're right," it whispered. "You are alone, and you always will be." I couldn't take it anymore. I threw the mask on the floor again, this time stomping on it with all the force I could muster. The wood cracked beneath my foot, splintering into pieces. The whispers stopped. I stood there, breathing heavily, staring down at the shattered remains of the mask. It was over. The mask was gone. The voice was gone. But as I stood there, the silence felt heavy, oppressive. I was alone again, truly alone, with nothing but the four walls of my apartment to keep me company. And for the first time in years, I felt afraid. Afraid of the silence, afraid of the emptiness, afraid of what I had become. I had destroyed the mask, but its whispers still lingered in the back of my mind, haunting me, reminding me of the truth I had tried so hard to ignore. I was alone, and I always would be. I never left my apartment again after that. The outside world was still too big, too loud, too unpredictable. But now, the safety of my apartment felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. The mask was gone, but its presence lingered, a constant reminder of the things I had lost, the people I had pushed away. I spent my days in silence, my thoughts my only companion. The whispers were gone, but the fear remained. Maybe Dr. Caldwell was right. Maybe I should have pushed myself out of my comfort zone, faced my fears, and reached out to the people I had shut out of my life. But now it was too late. Now all I had left was the silence.